Hello, we are going to work on Mind-Unwind number 10 today, and it's going to involve two patterns. One is called circuital and one is called NSU. I think you'll enjoy these a lot. It does give us sort of a flower look at the end, but for starters, you're going to go right in marker. We don't need to do anything in pencil on this one at the beginning. Step one on this one is going to be to just draw a nice circle at the bottom. And I did this one in pencil just so you have a reference of how big to make everything. So our circle, we're going to be, I am working on, let's see, this is about a 4x4 piece of paper. It's a little bit bigger than a quarter, maybe like a $half size. All right, so on the top of this circle, I'll move that out just a moment. On the top of this circle, we're going to make this little crescent moon. So it's going to come around like that. Got it? And we're going to do that same thing on either side. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the base for our design. So I'm going to add another over here. And then we'll go back this way. I'll move that one for now. It's a little distracting. I'm going to go back this way. And now I'm going to add my borders. So I'm going to put my little dots in each corner of my paper. So there are my 4 dots. And then I can connect those lines to make a frame. So this can be curvy if you want it to. It can be very straight. Whatever your favorite way is to make your little outlines for your Zentangles. I enjoy that curve. I like it. And then across the bottom on this one, I'm just going to draw behind that little circle I made. So this is our starting point. And we're going to do the circuital pattern first. So circuital kind of looks like a lot of things overlapping in a circle. And I'm going to start at the end, and it's almost like a wave pattern, but I don't want it to be as curvy as a wave. So I want to go up sort of straight about to the center, and then I'm going to come back down. And then I'm going to turn a little bit, and I'm going to do that same thing. So I'm going to go up, cross over, and then I'm going to come back down, and I'm going to keep it sort of wide so we have that look like it's a lot of overlapping things. So this one's going to come up, and then it's going to come down over here. We don't see the whole thing. And as we get over here, we can't really see the tips of the other ones, but it, you know, if we could, it would go kind of up like this, and then it would come down here. So that's 1, 2, and then I'll put another as though it starts here, goes up, and it comes back down here. So that gets a little confusing there, but I think you can make it through. These lines over here are not quite as important, but they do matter. All right, so to keep ourselves from getting very confused, which is easy to do, let's start, and we'll make inside that first one, we will make an aura of that triangle. See that? There we go. And then we'll do that same thing in this one. So we're just making an aura of that original triangle. And I'm going to do the same here. So I'm making an aura of the original triangle. And then I'm going to make one here. Even though we can't see that whole shape, we know that it would be there. And then we have the one more shape that we need to make our little lines on. Perfect. It's a little confusing, I know, but I think you can do it. Just keep trying. All right, now I'm going to make something fun in the center of each of these. So let's start about right here, come out and around like so, we can come back in, curve around, and we'll color that in to where it looks like it's coming from maybe from the outside of that circle. So this needs to be, there we go, kind of like that. So that's what each of those will look like. So I'll have one here, so I'm going to swoop down, come to the outside, and then swoop up and meet that one. So it's almost like we're making a little hook. And then we just color it in. And that makes it look like that's coming around the outside. And then however you need to turn your paper to do that for the others. So there's that hook. And then we're gonna come right over to it. My hands are a little shaky today, so excuse my jittery hand business here, but it'll be fine in the end. I'm not too worried about it. So same thing, and it doesn't matter that this is back here. We're just gonna draw, color in, and go on our merry way. All right, I have one more, so I'm going to skip this section, and then this is my last one. It can be easy to get confused in these sections, but just try to remember that we're going for those original 5, and we should have some leftover space. That's fine. All right, so we've got that started. Now there are a lot of different ways that we can do the in-between spaces. So it's kind of up to you. In these spaces, I am going to do like a little line pattern. And if I want to later, if I really want to, I can go back in and shade those. And as I get toward the outside, I want my line to be a little curved. And that's going to give this shape kind of that feeling that it's round. So we're kind of going to follow the aura of the circle on the outside. And I didn't round those very well, but that's okay. I don't think it'll matter. It's still going to look really nice at the end. So I'll round this one. It's going to make this thing look more like a little seed pod or something. These look like a little Nike swoosh, don't they? Nice. And you can always do other things inside these other shapes if you want to, but I'm going to leave mine that way for now just because I'm not sure what I want to do. So that is our pattern that is called Circuital. The next pattern I think you're going to really like. It's called an issue. And it's a lot of swooping, curvy lines. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites. I haven't known it for long, but I do love it. I've decided. So you can work this way, or you can turn it upside down. I'm gonna go turn it upside down because that works better for me. And a shoe is a lot of like just really nice curvy little line things that come together. And then we're gonna split it in half with a nice curvy little line. And we'll split each of those in half. And you can add as many sections to this as you want to. This can be very meditative. This can be very relaxing for people to do. So there's one. And if you want to like flesh it out a little bit, you can come and add these little side pieces because I do want it to appear as though it's coming out of that little compartment. And then we'll do one that maybe has a wider origin point, but we'll bring it down here and kind of round it out. And I'm going to try to make this get wider as I go so that it looks sort of like a flower petal. I'm going for that flower visual. So we can add as many of these in here as we want. And I do like when we have a little curve at the end of them. That's personal taste, but I love it. I think these often are like a fingerprint. Everyone's is going to be a little bit different, even though it's the same thing. We know it's the same thing, but everyone's might be a little individual. All right, so we have this hole here, so we can decide, oh, well, this goes with this piece if we want to, and then just make that a little bit thicker. And then we can decide, well, let's have one coming out this way. So I'm going to have one coming out this way. And they don't all have to curve inward. They can curve different ways. So this one's going to be shaped like so. And I will go ahead and split it in half. Add some of these lines. And we're going to keep doing that. And we can come out and around here if we want. Ooh, my pen got away from me a little bit there. That's okay. And they can really be any shape that you want them to. I like these rounded pieces because it feels more like pieces of a flower kind of opening up to me. But yours can be longer, they can be more squat if you want them to. And I'll add another over here. And they'll begin to overlap like this. So I'm going to try to keep my lines moving in different directions. It doesn't really matter if they appear to run together because we can clarify that later with a little bit of shading if we would like. So there's another one. And then we kind of keep doing that until we get where we want to be at the end. So like we can't see the whole piece of this one. So I'm just going to make it up. This is what it might be like. And I can add all my little lines as I would like. And let's see if it wants to be wider and fuller, we can do that. And here I can kind of decide, oh, this one's going to be curly. This one's going to come out of my boundary that I laid. This one's a bit of a rebel. All right, and we can just add these lines. And it doesn't matter if I go over the lines that I've already laid down. It's totally fine. I'm trying to draw behind when I get to what would be the thick part, but like where these little curly things come over, it doesn't matter if those overlap because we'll make it a little clearer. It's not really fixing. We'll make it a little clearer with shading. So I'm going to have one that comes out here. We don't see the whole thing. It's a bigger one. I don't like what that line did, so I'm just going to add another line over there. And then I'm going to keep adding my little lines. Up and swoopy. Up and swoopy. Wherever I feel like they should go. So now I've got, let's see, I want it to be like a flower petal. So I'm going to come around this way. And let's see. Can really see my hands are shaky today. I don't know why. Maybe I did a lot of work with them yesterday. I was making some cyanotypes. So maybe my hands are tired from all the work I made them do yesterday. And in these little spaces in between, you can kind of just make them do whatever you want. Like I'm gonna just pretend this one is sort of behind some of the other ones. And then we can add little ones over here. Like I'm gonna add one that goes maybe the other way because we don't have any lines going that way yet. But you can fill the spaces in with lines that maybe just make sense to you. I wanted something going a little bit in the other direction. So then here I can do whatever I want. I can make a little section here, and then I can just flesh that one out a little bit. So that's one of our petals, and you can go out as far as you want. You don't have to end, you know, you can fill that space, but what I want you to do is work on the other petals first. So we're going to start back here the same way we did before. So I'm going to go up, I'm going to make a little shape, fill it in with my cute little lines. And then add more like I did before. So like this one can come around, and maybe we don't see the whole thing. That's all right. We're just going to make sense of it the best way we know how. We can make up what happens in the background, the parts we don't see. That is our job as the artist. We want to tell people what we want them to see. All right, so this one's gonna go up and over. Up and around and up and over. And we can always make them wider, like I said before, if we want, but I'm gonna make this one kind of be curvy and cute that way. So that's fun. And we can come out from here as well. Kind of just add in lines that make sense. It doesn't always have to be exactly that same pattern you started with. If you feel like, hey, this needs some lines and they need to go in this direction, it's probably going to be just fine. All right, so like this is a tiny section. I'm just going to add some lines to it that make sense to me. Over here, let's see, what way have we not gone with lines? Let's pretend we have one here. I guess we don't have to pretend, it's for real. And then this one, I think I'm going to pretend like, I don't know why I keep saying pretend. This is my real actual drawing. All right, so there are some. We can still come out this way, but I'm going to go ahead and work here. The first one is always fun because we can get really curvilicious with these lines. Kind of doing whatever we feel. And I'm going to color this in because like this is emerging from that. So I'm just making these little wavy lines, enjoying each one of them. I'm very glad that you chose to take the time to work on this today. This is one of my favorite things to do, and it makes me so happy when you join. And I want you to know that if this is your first time making this pattern, maybe it's going to look a little different than mine. That's okay. Before I came here to draw with you, I practiced this several times in several different ways, trying to figure out what would be my favorite way to show you this particular design and how we could set it up to make it enjoyable for you and not too confusing. So this is going to be a like ultra fun curvy thing here. And I will just bring these down wherever they fall. I'm hoping that when you sat down today, you didn't get too much in your head about what this is going to look like eventually or exactly how you want it to turn out. I think I prefer to start these the other way, where I tell myself, however this turns out is going to be fine, because this is a really fun activity for all of us. Anyone can do it. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to have a really steady hand, as you're seeing by me. My hands are very shaky today. And I'm going to curve that one out to the side a little bit. And we can start doing that if we want on these sides. We can sort of decide how these, because I'm seeing them as flower petals, so we can decide how they're coming together. So I'm going to add some little, this is like just a smile. It's almost like you're drawing lips, but you're drawing a bunch of lines on that lip. So I'm going to come down. This is just a smile. So did you see that? That's just a smile. And then we split it in half. And we keep doing that. So that's a nice way to round out the side of these petals. So I'm going to do that here as well. And I'm going to have the same point of origin. And I'm going to finish at the same point each time. See how that works? Perfect. I'll add one over here. And if this is something that it's difficult for you to do on a small piece of paper because of your vision or your motor skills, you can always do this on a large piece of paper. The reason I use a small piece of paper is because I tend to get really into my details. And if I give myself too much paper with intricate things like this, sometimes, not all the time, but occasionally, I will get overwhelmed. So this helps me stay not overwhelmed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add another here. And keep this as my origin point, because what I'm doing here is similar to this, but we don't see the whole shape because I have hit that little boundary I set for myself. So I'm going to stay there. And I can do something similar over here. And let's see, so now we have this third one, and we can decide, all right, I'm going to encompass this with one of these little shapes. And I can do that over here as well. We can also decide, like, do I want little tendrils coming down in here, or am I loving this open space? Just want to paint it black later? I don't know. So these are all things you can kind of decide for yourself. I'm going to make these just bigger and bigger and bigger because I love drawing this line pattern. It's making me pretty happy right now. So hopefully you are just working on yours. Sometimes I like when you look up and you think, oh my gosh, did she say something important? Did I miss something? No, you didn't miss anything. If you are enjoying the process, if you're finding joy in making this shape, that's all I want from this session. That is it. All right, so I think I can make this go out more, and I will fill in this section. These little things like this, like how wide I decide to make my petals, and how many lines I decide to put in between. These are all our little personal artist fingerprints, I like to call them. Everyone's is going to look different, and I really, really need you to be okay with that. All right, so I'm going to go outside my little crescent here and make a shape. I'm simply continuing to add shapes until I feel like it's, whatever the word is, done, maybe? Maybe not, just where it feels balanced, where it feels right. Starting to feel like really cool. I'm liking it a lot. What I think I want to do, so I have these little crescent shapes, and I'm going to put little dots in them just to help show you which sections I'm talking about. So if you don't want yours to be dotty, that's okay, but I'm going to dot mine just so it'll help them stand out a little bit. Because I know that it can get a little confusing with all of these different sections. But this would be the point where we started each of those NSU designs. And anashu is just a nonsense word that somebody made up to apply to this pattern. It's not always based in reality. It doesn't always have a meaning. The Zentangle vernacular can be kind of silly sometimes. All right, so then you can decide, what do I want in this open space here? Do I want some little tendrils? Do I want, I think I might just do an aura of this circle here. And I'm going to end it here though. But I'm going to aura that circle. So I'm liking the way that looks quite a bit. So I might even do another aura of that circle that's a little bit larger. Ooh, I like that a lot. Okay. Definitely keeping that. And then I'm going to do even another one that goes back here. Oh, all right. Pretty good. Pretty nice. I think I also want up here, I'm going to do some dots that go to the center at the top of each of these. Dot, 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 dot. And maybe there would be also dots in there. All right, now is the time that you can add any of your own little pattern, anything you'd like to. I don't know if I'm going to add a lot of pattern. I'm going to go kind of round out some things that didn't quite get as sharp as I wanted them to. Or I guess I'm not going to round them out. I'm going to sharpen them up. All right, so we have this. I need to find a place to add my little Zentangle signature before I get to doing too much. So I think I'm going to add that right over here. And my Zentangle signature is always a circle with a K and a little heart. So this is called your chop, and it's your Zentangle signature. All right, I don't know what's gonna happen inside the other things, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my shading going on. So I'll be right back with that. Or maybe I have all the things I need right here. You are gonna need a pencil, and also like a little piece of paper towel. If you happen to have a blending stick, great. If not, I'm going to show you really quickly how I make my own blending stick if I need one. I've got this little strip of paper towel. You can see I've used it as a blending stick before. I am going to roll it up kind of tiny like this. And then I'm going to smush it. So I'm going to smush it flat to where it's very flat like this, and then I'm going to bend it over and smush again, and that's going to give me these lovely little corners, and we're going to use that to blend. I'm going to show you a little bit of blending and shading, and then I'm going to let you be on your own to do blending and shading, and I will go into time lapse. All right, the first place I definitely want to shade is right at the edge of these little crescents that we drew, because that's where all these things are coming out of, right? So I'm just gonna add, and I'm not adding pencil to this paper like I wanna make a dent in the paper. I am adding pencil like I'm just trying to lay some graphite on the paper. I don't wanna go bananas and lay this down too hard to where it will be difficult to blend. So I'm adding just on the other side of the crescent, and that's one place that we can shade. You can decide on all of these kind of where your shading is going to be. This shape right here for me is on top of these others, so I'm going to let it have some shade coming off the back of it. So it would shade down here, and then it might also shade down below here. This shape came next, so it's going to throw some shade on the things below it. And I'm just touching my paper ever so lightly with this pencil. If your pencil isn't letting you work this way, if it's not writing very dark, you might want to see if you can dig up another one that's a little bit softer. And then over here, we might have some shadow from this one. So you're kind of just going to work your way through figuring out what might be shading other things. So I know that this one is on top of these, so it's definitely going to be throwing a little bit of shade down there. But this one is on top of this one, so maybe it's shading down that way. This is where you just let your mind go. You let your mind do whatever your mind thinks, whatever your mind makes sense of. This is always good. So this one, let's see, this one's on top, so it's gonna shade that one and over there. And then this is in front of that, so it's gonna shade there. Let's see, what else do we have? This one is on top of the one behind it, so that's going to be some shade there. And also here, you don't have to shade if you don't want to. I really enjoy shading, so I'm gonna. And then this one kind of looks like it's on top of that one, so I'm just making it up as I go. So it looks like maybe this is the edge of that one. It's hard to say, but when I shade it, anybody who looks at this is just going to believe me because that's where I put the shade. So you can kind of do whatever you want, but I hope you can see how that is starting to look very dimensional. It's kind of cool, huh? All right, what else do we have? This one's on top, so it's going to be shading there. That one's on top, so it's going to shade this one. And this one will shade here. It's going to be throwing some shadow on the stuff behind it. And then also here and here. So you can just sort of work your way around. You can decide what's shading what. If it's confusing and it's just not bringing you joy, stop doing it. If what is bringing you the most joy is not doing it, that's really totally okay. But this just makes me incredibly at ease and feel very peaceful. So I'm going to shade that part that way. And I also kind of feel like there would be something here. I don't know. Perhaps a little something under there. There we go. All right, so once you have all of your graphite down, you can get your little blending stick you made, and you're not going to scrub this. This isn't a super hard motion. We are smudging. I'm almost going to go in like the tiniest circle motion. And I'm just going to smudge that downward. You see how pretty that made it? And then we'll do the same thing here. I am simply smudging the pencil that I put down. And if there's a place right here, like where the graphite starts over here, I'm trying to not smudge it onto the places that I did not want graphite. But I'm just mixing it up a little, letting it soften. It's simply smudging. It's not a scribble. It's not a... we're just directing this lead as to where we would like it to go. We don't want it to be so rough. We want it to be nice and smooth. And if you go outside your boundaries, you can come back with your eraser and kind of fix that if you want to. All right, so that's getting really cool. And I turned my paper here because I don't want to get pencil all over my hand. So you can sort of see how that's adding some dimension and helping you understand what I think is on top and where the shadows might fall in my particular drawing. Once you get your shade all fixed up and where you want it, if you feel like you need more somewhere else, you can always come back and add that. All right, this is getting great. I love it. It's looking so floofy. So I'm shading all of these friends. Getting those all on there. Oh, so that's where we are for now. I love this. I really, really like it. Okay, so then I'm going to shade the rest kind of in a similar fashion. And with the Zendangles, there isn't really like a specific top or a bottom, or it doesn't have a specific directional orientation. So you can kind of do whatever you want when you're going around shading. I'm probably going to just kind of take the same approach. The ones that come out of that crescent are going to be on top. So I'll shade just below them. And then I'll kind of go from there. Decide what is where and who's in front, who's behind, what gets shaded. Like I said, you can sort of make it up as you go, and whatever you do is what people are going to see when they look at yours. So whatever rule you make up is going to be the rule that they imagine when they look at your drawing. Okay, is that everybody in this one? We'll see. So I'm going to smudge that little crescent, and then I'll go smudge the other little parts where I added my graphite. And if it gets too dirty, you can flip it over and use the other one. If it gets too smushy, that is also a problem. I almost prefer the paper towel blender to the actual blending sticks that you're supposed to use for whatever reason. I think because maybe I can reshape it when I feel like I need to. That makes me happy. All right, and then over here. Okay, so there's that one, and then I'll do the same thing in this one. So I've already shaded here, and I think this is going to be my boundary line for shading this one. These ones on the side are not as large, so there's maybe not as much that you have to think about. What am I doing over here? This is where it gets a little dicey. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm just going to add some shade where I think there should be shade, and it'll be fine. I have to use my little creative problem solving skills to solve my creative problem. All right. So I have the crescent part. And this back part here. I feel like there should be some shade on this one somewhere. What do we need to do here? Maybe coming down from the top, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, there we go. And then we can decide how do we want to shade the center section. And there's a lot of ways to go with that, y'all. I mean, there's a lot. I think I'm going to do a dark edge here. So I'll do that same dark edge on all of them. Where am I going here? Oh, I need to come into the top parts too. Okay, so there's a dark edge on that side. And then I'll go ahead and do a dark edge on these other lines as well. And we'll see how that makes everything look. So I'm going to find the curve of my J, find this line, and shade that as well. So the curve of the line, and I'll shade that one. So I'm going to smudge this and see what my outcome is. I'm going to smudge these big sections first because what I think is I'm going to have to fold my paper towel over to get a better point for when I have to go smudge inside those little lines. Don't think I have that fine point anymore. All right. So if you feel like this is getting too flat, you can like just unfold a little bit, refold, re-roll, smush, and refold. And then you have a brand new pointy little point. So now I can get in this tiny space here. Whoa. My paper is running away. Smudgy, smudgy. Smudgy. Oh, I forgot one. And one more. And the little tiny points. All right, now I can decide what needs to be shaded next. I think I'm gonna shade these ones outward, like so. So I'm going a little thicker here at the peak and then a little lighter as I come down. So thicker at the small part, lighter toward the bottom. So let's blend that out. That's fun. Some of that shakiness and some of that imperfection that I was feeling when I was doing this, as you can see, kind of goes away when we add all of this. So these would be overshadowing this area here. So I'm going to add some shadow in these little spaces. My crescents are all different, so they're not all going to shade the same, but let's see. So I'm going to blend this out and blend this one out. My pencil is in my way. Blend that one out. So that's showing a little shadow there. Blend that outward. And this one. And then I'll blend from this giant one that is at the center. And come outward. then what we can decide is what's in front. Is it this or this? And I think this is in front, so it's going to be throwing some shade on the things behind it, like so. So this first little line is where I'm starting. So I'm just going to color that in, and then I'll go back with my blender and we'll see what happens. All right. So I'm going to blend this back. That's looking good. All right. Blend this back. Blend this one back. And blend this one out and back. And now I can do the same thing on the other two lines. So I'm just going to go to the right of these two lines and make it like they are shading the stuff behind it. So I'm staying to the right. And it doesn't matter that we already shaded that other stuff. This is still just fine. So I'm going to blend that out. Blend this out, and that gives a little dimension to those rounds that we added. Blendy, blendy. Ooh, that blended really nicely. All right, what are we doing over here? This is where it gets very small, and you know, you may or may not want to do the same things. Okay, now if you want to blend other things, you can be done. You can do whatever you want to do. If there's any places that you would like to perhaps add color, you always can. Otherwise, what do I want to do? Let's see. There's going to be something, I think, in these spaces between, and what I think it might be is just some dots. And if you've got that white pencil and you want to add some glare to different places on your piece, you can always do that. Of course. Sometimes people like to color the outside part. I might actually do that on this one. I feel like it would look very interesting. But before I do that, I'm going to have to go get another piece of something to put underneath here because I don't want to color all over my desk. All right, so I like the way that looks. I like this so much. It's very fun. So for now, there is my finished product. I don't know if I'm going to put anything else on it. You could always get, if you have your white pencil, like a white chalk pencil or a white piece of chalk, a white map pencil, colored pencil. Where's mine? Oh, there's my white. I found it. So like this is it's just a white chalk pencil. You can find places that might have a glare on them. Like I could add glare on these black things, or if you have like a white pen, that works too. So I'm going to put just a little glare here and there. Sometimes it's hard to write on this with these. So there's some glare, so that maybe looks like that's a little more glary. I could put some white in these places that I really want to look bright, like here. Sometimes it's, you know, it doesn't really matter, but it's one of those things you can try if you want to. I think I'm good without the white here. I think this is going to do it for me. I will color the edges, and you'll see that in the finished product. But thank you so much for tangling with me today. Again, so this was Mind-Unwind number 10. and a shoe is this fun little curvy pattern. And then Circuital is our circle pattern there in the center. I think I'm gonna shade like behind this one. I think it needs to be overshadowing the things behind it. Don't you? I truly do. And then this one as well. So it can be shading the things behind it. That is the dimension I was looking for. Cool. Ooh, that makes it really a lot deeper. Okay. And you know, as we get back here, it's littler and littler, but it's still shade. So then I'll blend that out. I know this is like the longest tutorial in the history of tutorials, but hopefully you're like finishing yours up and enjoying. I'm gonna smudge this out, and then if there are any little places where I just have maybe too much pencil, I can go back in and just lightly run my eraser over the spots that need to be brighter. Right? Oh, this one would also shade here. All right, so now that looks really nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Anywhere I need to erase? I don't know. I think everything looks great. Thanks y'all for being here with me today. I will go ahead and color in, and then I will show you the final product. Here is an up-close view of my shading, my drawing. Here we are backed out, and I did decide to color it. So you can decide whether you like it better in black and white or color. I love them both. Sometimes the simplicity of the black and white and the shading is all you need. But sometimes, I mean, if those colors are sitting there staring you in the face and you've got time, why not? I hope you enjoyed today. Come back and see me again.